Hello everyone, and welcome back to Fallout 76 for another round of legendary crafting. Today I'm going to go through and craft up some fixers because I'm on Xbox, and while I've got some good ones, I don't have a Bloodied faster fire rate fixer on my Xbox character, and I'd kind of like one. I think the odds are pretty slim of getting one, but beyond that, fixers are cool, fixers are fun, everybody wants them, and when I fill my vending machine with cheap fixers, people buy them. And that's cool. That means people are having a good time, so that makes me happy. Remember, if you like videos like this and you want to see more, do go ahead and subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment, follow me on Twitter. There's always a lot more to come on the channel. I know it was a little quiet this week. I had to take some downtime to recoup from an injury, but hopefully by next week everything will be back to 100% and I'll be back to normal. Without further ado, let's go make some fixers. I've got 11 crafted up here because the super duper perk only procced once. But we'll go ahead and craft them up and see what we get. So we're going to start with a Furious Fixer with explosive bullets and a VATS critical meter that fills 15% faster. So the great thing about crafting fixers is even when you get a bad one, it's still a fixer, so it's still pretty good. And this one is definitely better than a bad one. Furious, I don't love the Furious effect on a commando weapon just because with that build, they're so powerful already that you're killing most things in a couple of shots anyway. You're not really maximizing what you get out of that effect, but at the same time, when you take on bosses, that can be good. Now, the downside is the explosive effect. If you get splash damage on some other enemies, that can kind of reset your Furious effect, which it's a little hit or miss. It's not an all the time thing. It's just a little wonky with how it works. But you know, if you're targeting single individual enemies, you should be fine. So on big things like bosses like the Scorch Beast Queen or Earl, you're going to be able to maximize that Furious damage, and that's definitely good. A VATS critical meter that fills 15% faster. Can't complain about that. Typically, not everyone, but most, I would say, stealth commando and stealth rifleman builds have some VATS critical elements built into their build, so this will just make you trigger those VATS criticals more often. So is this amazing? No, it's probably not amazing, but it's certainly not a bad roll to get started with. Let's see what's next. And we've got a Gourmand's with action points that refresh with each kill and extra perception. So here's a good example of any fixer is a good fixer, right? The fixer is a very powerful weapon to begin with. You don't even really need a legendary one to do extremely well with it. So if we can get another 24% damage by having full hunger and thirst meters, okay, I'll take that. Replenishing action points with each kill, okay, I'll take that. I use a lot of VATS, so you know, if you're a VATS user, that could be really good. Extra perception is going to help with your VATS accuracy. I've said in other videos that I think Gourmand's is kind of an ideal legendary effect for a full health player who's still leveling up. Someone who maybe has a few perks but isn't really all there yet. You don't have all the mutations, you don't have everything. So it's kind of hard to sacrifice things in your build or with the way that you play to maximize a legendary effect. So this one, while it's not a super damage buff, it's still a damage buff, and it's an easy one to get for almost any player. The Wasteland is lousy with food and water. There's no reason that you would really ever need to go hungry or thirsty. So for a lower level or a mid-level player who's still kind of figuring their way out or working towards their build, that could be a good effect. So not a bad roll, not great for me, but could be good for somebody. And now we've got a Bloodied Fixer with VATS critical shots doing more damage and extra damage resistance while aiming. So here for me as a VATS player, this one it's good because I tend to run a Bloodied Stealth Commando. So that's awesome. VATS critical shots doing extra damage. That's awesome. I can maximize my build to get more VATS critical chances. So that will be a good little damage buff. Extra damage resistance while aiming is kind of pointless with this weapon. With those two primary and secondary effects, you're going to focus on VATS rather than free aiming, so you're not really going to get a lot out of the extra damage resistance, and arguably you don't get a lot out of the extra damage resistance anyway, so that's kind of a throwaway effect. But the first 2 stars are definitely very good. Of course, Bloodied is still the biggest damage buff in the game. I've made my case that I think Berserkers should be buffed to actually outpace it, but we'll see if anything like that ever happens. For now, this one's very good. It's not, in my opinion, as good as some of the other Bloodied fixers I have, so it'll probably end up in my vending machine. So if you see me in game and you want a Bloodied fixer, go ahead and be sure to check them out. But yeah, so far 2 rolls and 2 pretty solid ones. Let's see what else we can do. All right, and now this one is much less exciting. We've got the Assassin's Effect, 50% more damage to humans, bashing damage, and 250 damage resistance while reloading. So 50% damage to humans, I guess it's better than nothing. This is one of those, if you don't have a legendary fixer, well, sure, why not kind of legendary fixers. It gives you something. It's better than nothing, and it's on an excellent weapon, so it's kind of hard to go wrong. With that said, humans are squishy. There's no reason you really need a special weapon to target them. Bashing damage on a fixer is an absolute waste of a legendary effect. 250 damage resistance while reloading. Doesn't hurt to have it, but this weapon doesn't take very long to reload, and depending on the magazine you put in it, you're not reloading it that often anyway, so it's kind of a wasted perk that you're not going to really get a whole lot of mileage out of, especially if you do tactical reloads as you're going along and really only reload when you're safe to do it. So don't love this one. It'll go up cheap in the vending machine, so that's okay. But what else can we do here? Do we have any other good ones coming our way? What do we get next? We've got Juggernaut's damage increases as health increases, with bashing damage and faster movement speed while aiming. So Juggernauts was introduced a few updates ago as kind of a counter to Bloodied. The problem with it is that it's only a 25% damage buff if you're at full health, so you're not really getting a lot out of it. Even if you were running a non-legendary fixer with just Adrenal Reaction and you were at low health, that would be a 50% damage buff. So it doesn't really make any sense to me why that's there. Now, maybe if you want to play full health, but you also want to have Adrenal Reaction, and then you can kind of balance out that damage drop-off as your health wanes while you play, maybe that's a way to do it. But if you're being sneaky with a fixer, and if you're using a fixer, honestly, you should be, then I don't really see that as a huge necessity. So I'm not a huge fan of the Juggernaut's effect, and unlike Gourmand's, even if you're a low or mid-level player, you still have to go through some consumables to keep your health high. So there's a little more of a sacrifice there to make that one work. So don't love this one. Bashing damage sucks, of course. Movement speed while aiming is useless if you have Speed Demon, and barely noticeable if you don't. But next we've got an Executioner's with the last shot effect and faster movement speed while aiming. So I like the Executioner's effect, even on a weapon like a fixer. You could make the argument that it's fairly useless for general farming, because if you're being stealthy and you've got a good build, most of your enemies are going to be dead in 1 to 3 shots with any fixer. So you're not going to get a whole lot of mileage out of Executioners, but where it really pays off is bosses. Bosses and big tanky enemies like Scorch Beasts. The Executioner's effect still seems to be multiplicative in nature, so once your target gets below 40% health, you see a very significant damage increase, and it does make a difference on those big tanky enemies. So I do like the Executioner's effect as long as you understand where it's strong and where it's not. Then I think you can use it very effectively. The last shot effect, I absolutely despise this effect. It is a pure waste of a second star. It's there just to dilute the loot pool. Maybe when they came out with it, they thought it seemed like a good idea on paper, but it's not. It's just useless. With a weapon like this, if you're running the Stinging magazine and you've got 25 rounds in your magazine, you're not generally going to be firing this thing until the magazine depletes to the last round. You're going to kill a couple of enemies, you're going to reload while you move, and the odds that you're going to even shoot the last shot are slim to none, let alone a 1 in 4 chance to deal double damage. So this is why I don't like that effect. Faster movement speed while aiming, again, if you have the speed demon mutation, this amounts to a 0 difference. If you don't have the speed demon mutation, maybe you're a lower level player, technically I guess it increases your speed while aiming, but it's not significant. Most players aren't even going to notice it. So I like the Executioner's effect here, but I don't like the 2nd or 3rd stars. Still and yet, we'll throw it in the vendor. It'll make somebody's day who doesn't have a good legendary fixer at all. So it'll be an improvement for them. Okay, we've got a few more to try here. Let's see what else we can do. And this one is another example of, hey, it's a fixer, right? It's better than nothing. So we've got damage to Scorched, which isn't terrible as far as legendary effects, as far as the situational legendary effects go. Right now, where we've got the Holiday Scorched event going on, or rather the Spooky Scorched event going on. I'm sorry, they're basically the same thing, so they're easy to get confused. But either way, you've got players hunting a lot of Scorched right now, so having a weapon designed for that doesn't hurt. With that said, most Scorched are pretty squishy, so whether you really need that or not is debatable. Extra damage while aiming, not bad. If you are not a VATS player and you want to aim down sights, then that gives you 25% damage buff on everything else. So that's kind of nice. You get 25% more damage if you're free aiming, and you get 50% more to Scorched, so that's not bad. 25% less VATS AP cost kind of runs counter to that 2nd star. If you're aiming it, if you're free aiming, you're not going to be using VATS, so which one are you going to get mileage out of? I don't know. This is one that, you know, it's not an ideal role by any means, but it's still a fixer, so it doesn't suck. It's kind of impossible to have a fixer that sucks. So we'll keep moving on here. We've got a few left to go. Come on, and we got another Juggernauts with VATS critical shots doing more damage, and again with the faster movement speed while aiming. So we talked about Juggernauts before and why I don't like it, and I still don't like it. We'll leave it at that. VATS critical shots doing more damage, however, that's pretty solid. So if you are a full health build and you regularly keep your health topped up, maybe you have the healing factor mutation, so it's easy to do that. Buffing your VATS critical hits, that's not a bad way to go as a 2nd star. Faster movement speed while aiming, we've talked about it twice now. It's a pretty useless effect. So overall, do I love this one for me? No. Do I love it for most players? Probably not. But there might be somebody out there for whom this would be a good fit. It's not a good fit for me, but it might be a good fit for somebody. So we'll leave it at that and see what else we can roll. And now we've got another Gourmands, but this one's faster fire rate with faster reload. So here again, the Gourmands effect, I think, is a great effect for a low or mid-level player because it's easy to do. You can easily max that out. It's not supreme amazing damage, but if you're a player who's currently building, you're not doing supreme amazing damage anyway. So a little bit of an extra buff helps you out. 25% faster fire rate is going to increase your overall DPS. So as long as you have the ammo to feed this thing, that's going to help you out in a big way. And then faster reload is going to help you out again because it's going to make your reloads even quicker. So those tactical reloads in between enemies makes that much, much easier. So here again, this is kind of I think this is sort of a perfect weapon for, say, a level 30 player who doesn't have everything yet. This would be awesome for them for... they could probably get 20 or 30 levels out of a weapon like this and it would still be pretty good. So not bad. Not a bad roll. Not good for me as a high level player, but somebody out there could appreciate it. Unfortunately, it's a level 50 weapon the way I rolled it. But if you are a lower or mid-level player, maybe you can do it a little differently. What do we have left? Do we have one left or two? Let's see. All right, so here we've got the Medic's effect with bashing damage and again with the faster movement speed while aiming. So the Medic's effect, it's okay. If you've got a build that emphasizes VATS criticals and you get a lot of VATS criticals, then that can be useful for you as long as your group stays relatively close together. In situations like daily ops where you're holding the different checkpoints, that can be a useful thing. You're going to get a lot of VATS criticals in there because you're not getting your sneak bonuses in that particular daily op, so that could be a pretty useful thing. Bashing damage, unfortunately, is a complete waste of time. Unless it's a minigun where you can put a shredding barrel on it, bashing damage is totally worthless. It should not be in the pool. Maybe put it in the pool for miniguns. I would say maybe just create a special mod or something that you can get for miniguns to do that, because it's a complete waste of a legendary effect on everything else. Faster movement speed while aiming. We've hit it at length. Not very useful. So here we've essentially got a 1-star fixer. It's a 1-star medics fixer, so maybe somebody out there that collects fixers will grab it. But other than that, I don't really see anybody clamoring for this one. But hey, it's fixer. Like we said, there's really no such thing as a bad fixer, so I'll take what I can get. And I think we've got one more left to roll. Let's just take a quick peek here. Yep, one left. So normally I do 10, but I got an extra one today. Let's go ahead and see if we can get anything good for the last one. Ouch. No, we did not. Okay, so here is an Exterminator's with exploding bullets and damage resistance while reloading. So the Exterminator's effect is probably my least favorite of the situational damage effect weapons. Mirelurks and bugs are just not that common in this game. It would be one thing if we're going to take a trip to the Mojave Wasteland at some point and have to fight Cazadors. At that point, yes, give me every possible advantage when killing Mirelurks and bugs. That is fine. But in Appalachia, I really don't need this. Most of the bugs are pretty squishy. The Mirelurks really aren't that bad, and any number of effects are going to be better than carrying around a weapon dedicated just to those enemies. With that said, exploding bullets is always good. 250 damage resistance while reloading. Not my favorite effect, but I guess it's better than nothing. I don't really see you getting a lot of mileage out of it, but exploding bullets is good. It's a flat damage buff, so here again, even though that first effect is kind of crappy and the third effect is kind of useless, if you don't have a legendary fixer at all, and you come across one of these in, say, my vending machine for 600 caps, well, there you go. You got yourself a decent fixer to play around with for a little while. Other than that, it's probably pretty useless. And there we have it, folks. 11 rolls, 11 fixers. We got a couple of interesting ones. We got a couple of crappy ones. That's how it goes. So I do hope you had a good time with this one. We did the long script video over the weekend, and I thought we'd roll some fixers today. I am also working on a new lore video. We're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into the Rusty Pick and the history of this place, and check out some connections to it. So that'll be coming soon. If you can't tell, I've lost my voice a little bit here over the last couple of days, and that's coming back too. So for lore videos, I really try to make sure that's nice and sharp. So it's all put together and ready to go. I've just got to do the voiceover on it. So we should see that within the next few days to a week. And hopefully next week, if all goes according to plan, I will be back with another stream, and we'll be getting back to normal anyway. With all of that said, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please go ahead and subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, follow me on Twitter. There will indeed be more to come, and I hope I see you all next time.